Well, we're about to get right into it. We've got Dr. Simone Gold back again. Her book is now out. You can purchase it. We'll talk all about that. And as if you don't know Dr. Gold, she's an ER doctor who's also a Stanford-educated attorney. She's got a lot to talk about the last 4 or 5 years. Goldcare.com is where you can find her medical freedom platform. And she can also be followed on X, Dr. Simone, Simone Gold. Her book, Selective Persecution. So talking about government abuses. We'll be getting to that, but after we talk to her, we'll talk to Robert Suttle. He's a HIV activist, and he's going to educate me about something I know nothing about. I've never heard of it, which is HIV criminalization. And I, as someone who worked in the depths of the AIDS pandemic, I'm very curious about this, and I want to learn. So we will do so right after this.
Our laws, as it pertains to substances, are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins, and a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue. And we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15. All right, let's get right to my guest, Dr. Simone Gold. The book is Selective Persecution. I may have said prosecution before. It's Selective Persecution. You can follow Dr. Gold, Dr. Simone Gold, Simone. Dr. Gold, welcome to the program. There is the book.
Thank you so much, Dr. Drew. Great to be back.
So tell us about the book and what we can learn by reading it. It's going to be, I love these sorts of books because they're going to be historically relevant documents, if not now, certainly one day.
You actually hit the nail on the head. This is my personal experience over the past 5 years, since becoming a COVID whistleblower against the government and the media. And then I was arrested on January 6th. So it reads like a legal thriller, but each chapter takes Americans and other people through what happened in our nation, how we arrived at such a place where you could put somebody like me in prison for 2 months. How did we get there? How is that possible? And I use everything I knew as a doctor to explain what happened during COVID, and everything I know as a lawyer to explain all the illegalities, quite frankly, that I saw pertaining to J6. It reads like a Michael Crichton novel, and it's also a strong historical reference as to what has happened in our nation. There's actually 650 references in there. So people cannot say, I didn't know, or I forgot, or can we just move on? I don't think so. This is what you said. This is what you did. We've got all the receipts. I really hope people check it out.
Yeah, I hope so too, because it is really important that people take a good hard look at what happened here. And I find myself walking around all the time going, how do we, what happened to us? Both what happened to us as a country and what happened to us as a profession?
Yes, actually, right. So how did we get here? So when you read the book, I explain it. Your previous guest or your next guest will be talking about AIDS and HIV. Well, people will be interested to find out that what we endured under Fauci's reign of terror in the COVID years was exactly what he had done during the AIDS epidemic. So there's Fauci 1.0 was the AIDS, and then Fauci 2.0 was his COVID response, and they actually were identical. There's 3 things he did specifically. I outline them in the book. So that's how we got here. That's how we got to a place where nurses were prohibiting grandparents and children from seeing each other, from spouses of 50 years. One would die in the ER alone because that's what we've become. So I really have explained it. And we have a forward by Dennis Prager and an afterward by Dr. John Eastman about the legal and Dr. Robert Malone about the medical. It's quite eye-opening.
So, I think you were you a physician before law school?
Yes, I'm definitely a doctor at heart. My heart is a doctor. Yeah, I was a doctor first.
Yeah. And you're still too young to I get it. No, I love having you to have both. But being, you're a little too young to have been in the depths of the AIDS situation that I was in it. I was deep in it. As you can imagine, it broke. And when I hit residency, we got all the cases, right? Because the sort of practicing physicians didn't have any idea how to deal with it or what it was, or they're just completely clueless. And so the teaching institutions and the residents got the cases, and I did it for years. And
so I just want to,
at the time, go ahead, please.
I actually want to share with you. So I graduated medical school when I was 23, and my dad was a doctor. So I was involved with this since birth. So I have my own independent recollection of the 80s and how it went and how Fauci interfered and how AIDS patients were treated as, like lepers and all. By the way, remember how scared everyone was to touch a gay person? That was directly from Fauci, who should have known it was not easily transmitted, but instead basically told us to be very afraid of gay people. That was the precursor to the 6-foot social distancing that he did during COVID. So I do remember it.
That's really interesting. But the one thing that was in addition to the Fauci 1.0 that he didn't have, I think we talked about this last time during the AIDS epidemic, was Dr. Birx, who went around and did precisely the behavior that caused the opioid epidemic, which is evangelist physicians went around, in the opioid case, went around and said, there should never be pain in America. We have these things called opiates. They're harmless. We should be using them liberally. And they went from state to state and got the regulatory organizations, the professional societies, the state medical societies, the Veterans Affairs organizations, and mandated excess prescribing of opiates. Pain is what the patient says it is. Pain control is what the patient says it is. Birx used that same thing when it came to COVID. Lockdown, or you're killing people. And she was the sort of the icing on the cake of Fauci 1.0 under the 2.0 circumstance.
She did a lot of harm. I actually wrote a children's book called The Plot Against the Kids, and I outline exactly what happened, the harm that Birx and Fauci did together. Maybe cultures have to go through this periodically. Yeah.
There's a lot packed into that statement. I sort of, I know what you're saying because with this all.
Right? Our father Jefferson, right? He said the tree of liberty has to be pruned periodically with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
And hopefully, actually, that's a metaphorical blood this time. But the fact that a mass formation hit for me was so startling and so bizarre. But I thought those happened under these extreme circumstances back, post World War I and things. But here we are. I guess they happen again, and maybe it's less extreme because our character construct has sort of shifted in a certain direction towards, cluster B personality disorders. I'm using a code for you there. And that's indeed what has happened. And maybe that makes it less, more likely to happen under less stressful circumstances. But go back to what happened to us. So Fauci created a lot of it, but we all went, not we all, but so many of our peers went along with it.
Dr. Drew, you and I are in the same boat. I felt from you, from our last conversation, like how heartbroken you were over our profession. I could feel it from you, and I am the same. It is heartbreaking that doctors who had the capacity to understand, the capacity or the training supposedly to look at facts dispassionately were so complicit and so disinterested, had their ears covered, their eyes covered, and they were, I don't know, following their paychecks or just, we've gotten very comfortable in America. We have very comfortable lives, and nobody wanted to rock the boat. And I always thought doctors were special. I really thought being a doctor was the most special thing a person could do with their life. And we answer to a higher calling. And I discovered overwhelmingly American doctors did not believe that.
And do you think that's a function of how we're training them now? This is a loaded question.
I think right. I think it's partly because life has gotten so comfortable and so pleasant, in Western nations, that people perceive that there's so much to lose if they speak out. But I do think the training does specifically make doctors more likely than the average citizen to be lockstep. We have a lot to lose, but we have prestige, we have salary, we have all these accolades. We are rewarded for staying on the treadmill, for not rocking the boat. And we are specifically trained in all of our med school, just to ask questions that are fact-based, but not theoretical or philosophical or why questions, right? And then in residency, you're really rewarded for being quite robotically accurate. So I do think our training worsens our American tendency to go along.
And a lot of people don't realize that it's a military system. There's a hierarchy, and you do with your authority, and that's how we, sort of learn our behaviors. But it has weaknesses when the hierarchy is adulterated by influences that shouldn't be there, which I think is what happened here. But I want you to talk. I know last time we talked a lot about this and how I was sort of hoodwinked in the whole thing because I found Fauci. I had a different experience during the AIDS thing where I was there when the AZT boxes open, and we finally had something to do for these young men. I mean, it was terrible before that. I was, a fourth-year medical student telling a young man every day he had 6 months to live, and I was never wrong. And now I could do 9 or 12 months while we tried to figure more things out. So I was grateful for all that, and I felt like he was a guiding force that helped me with the patients getting through all that. But I understand there were some issues along the way that I might have, some forces in there that I might not have been aware of. But I want you to put your legal hat on more this time too, and talk about now that we kind of understand that maybe some,
Sorry, Drew appears to be having some internet connection issues over on his end. Let me see if I can get him back. 1 second. There he is.
There we are. Could you hear what I said at all?
I did not. Please repeat.
I froze. That's weird, Susan. We're having internet glitches. So what I said was, I want you to put your, last time we talked a lot about our mutual experience as physicians. I want you to put your legal head on a little bit more now, given that we can look through the lens of history. And there's a lot of funny business that went on in our government that did not seem consistent with the American system as I understood it. Let's put it that way. What is your assessment of what happened there, both in terms of the excesses on the public health side, the fact that the White House might have been run by somebody who we still don't know? I mean, what happened legally and constitutionally in all this that you're thinking these days and that we can read about in the book?
Actually, that's actually what I write about in the book heavily. Selective persecution, and the subtitle is The Legalization of American Fascism. Fascism going forward is not going to look like Nazism or Stalin or Mao. It's going to look like this version of a bureaucracy where we have given up our rights to essentially a bureaucracy, much more like the social credit score. What happened in the White House the last 4 years, we actually don't know. And you could say there's a bureaucracy that was running the White House. It's as good an answer as any. So we have so many rules, we have so many regulations. When our nation was founded, there's about 4 federal laws. When you look them up, it's like treason, desertion, Homosexuality was one of them. I believe, I could be mistaken about that, but there was about 4. We have about 300,000 federal statutes now. 300,000. Nobody even knows. There was a book written by a Harvard professor some time ago called 3 Felonies a Day, which pointed out that most white-collar professionals are committing 3 felonies a day without knowing it. So we have a huge number of laws on the books, and then we can essentially entrap those people who are dissidents, those people who possess unpopular views, and we've kind of moved to that place. And we also have worldwide instantaneous communication that lasts forever. So this fear of cancel culture, which is essentially the normal human fear of, just getting along with people and, having a good reputation, has been magnified times 1,000,000,000,000. So people are quite afraid to speak out. And that's why it's important that you, me, other people remind people not to allow themselves to be censored. The self-censorship is where we change as a people. We all saw it in 2020. You didn't want to wear the mask, but you didn't want to offend anyone else. And so those people who didn't want to wear the mask, kind of were, polite about it. We need to stop that. We need to just speak our piece, not self-censor. I think that is part of the solution, is not silencing ourselves.
And then what about, I was listening to some French people speak this morning, and they were talking about the EU and the distorted notion of what democracy.
Oh, wow. Okay, Drew,
we are.
are you back?
I'm back.
There you are.
I'm back. I don't know what these freezes are.
I think you were
Weird.
asking about
Is
how
it-
the European Union, I think you're asking about the European speech.
Well, this is about to become the Dr. Simone Gold show here.
I will just speak while
Yeah, you can
Dr.
go ahead.
Drew. So I believe his question was, the European Union did not have as robust Bill of Rights as we do here in America. They don't really quite have the same strength on First Amendment freedom of speech. After World War II, Germany and some other nations passed laws that were perhaps well-intentioned about, quote, hate speech. They didn't want Nazism to rise again. So they started doing rules and laws against, quote, hate speech. But that has now morphed into what we're seeing in modern day Europe, which is you can get arrested and put in jail for memes and tweets and things like that. And that is a real life demonstration of how important it is to safeguard our First Amendment above everything. The antidote to hate speech is more speech, and we can never outlaw speech. And Europe, unfortunately—
I agree. They don't have protections of that as explicitly as we do. But their notion of democracy seems to be like democracy is supposed to be there to protect people against discomfort or something. It's the oddest thing. And whenever a majority wants something that is, like you said, makes somebody else uncomfortable, that's not what their actual, it's hard to understand what democracy is.
So democracy, we are not a democracy in America, thank God. Democracy is essentially ruled by the majority. That means if 51% of the people vote to take all of your money, that's perfectly legal in a democracy. We are a constitutional republic with a Bill of Rights. That means we have certain inalienable rights, no matter if 99% of people want to vote them away. Constitutional republic is what you are. And then you have a representatives, and that's more of a democracy portion. But there are certain rights that are absolutely guaranteed. There's an expression called the tyranny of the minority. The tyranny of the majority. That's when the majority rule, 51% can rule that we take all the assets of the 49%, or lives, for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Well, but we've been recently, you've been sort of, and the kind of democracy that the EU seems to be interested in is a tyranny of the minority, potentially.
Yeah, it's actually very frightening. I don't know what's going to happen in Europe long term. I don't know if, when I meet my maker, if Europe is still even going to be a powerful Western center. I tend to think not, actually. I think Europe is on the decline, although perhaps Eastern Europe will come in and save the day. Hungary's
that's interesting.
Policies. Yeah. Well, Hungary, have you seen that Hungary, the new tax policy in Hungary is to favor families. I don't know if you caught that in the news, but they've actually restructured their tax program to favor families. Like you get tax benefits if you have more children. So they're doing things differently than most of Western Europe.
Yeah, favoring families, favoring health, favoring freedoms. I mean, it's again, this is much like I was bewildered by the behavior of our peers. I'm bewildered by this seemingly enthusiasm for intrusions upon our freedoms.
Yes. And we don't have as many freedoms here in America as people think. Again, and going back to the COVID references, one of the things that struck me in 2020 was that all over the world, you could have access to really cheap, safe, generic medicines like hydroxychloroquine, but you couldn't have that access here in America. This. And I just think that that's kind of bizarre. You know, there's, So I just thought I'd mention to you, you might be interested, if you go on America's Frontline Doctors, AFLDS.org website, we are moving to ask the FDA to make hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin over the counter. This is something I did in 2020, and it took them 2 years to turn me down, but we are going to resurrect that citizens petition, and everyone should come and sign AFLDS.org because we want to actually have more freedom here. So that's just a little tiny slice of medical freedom.
And let me ask you about that. I mean, is it because that is sort of the battleground for medical freedom? I mean, before COVID, neither you nor I had any strong feelings about ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Right. I used it in my lupus patients. I didn't use it. I had ivermectin occasionally in my ascaris or whatever patients, but I didn't see it as a battleground for medical freedom. Is that why you wanted it over the counter?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. Your question is sophisticated. Why these two meds? What is that? I want to move as much away from government control as possible. It happens that these are two that, really are high profile. It happens that ivermectin looks very promising in various other diseases and cancer. And I want to move Americans away from a reliance on Big Brother telling them what's okay. I don't think the FDA should be in the business of restricting meds that we know are safe. That's it. It's really that simple. Many meds that are over the counter, Aleve, Naproxen, Meclizine, there's a ton. Those are all prescription, and they were brought to over the counter status because the manufacturer had a financial incentive to do so, which is fine. But I would like to remove the pharmacist and the doctor as a choke point, choking the American people. And we also have to move pharmaceutical manufacturing back to America. That's a big problem.
Yeah, no, the fact that medicine, the patient-doctor unit has been so completely eviscerated, we have no choice but to just get it to the patient, give them the ability to control their health care, because our relationship with the patients is under the influence of government regulators, professional societies, state medical societies, and insurance companies that determine everything, literally determine everything. You're there as trying to protect your patients. You can't. Go ahead.
This is my view of what medicine will look like in the future. So you heard it here on the Dr. Drew Show. Doctors should serve as consultants, the way accountants or lawyers or realtors serve as consultants for their clients. Clients should pay consultants for their advice and their time, and that's it. You don't like the consultant, you move on to another consultant. But the choke point should not be at the pharmacy. The choke point, if a drug is safe, we ought to be able to buy them, and you ought to avail yourself of consultants who will educate you. That's how I see medicine going in the future. And by the way, with AI, if physicians don't start getting on board of the doctor-patient relationship, you won't need a physician at all.
That's right. I completely agree with you. But let's now take that over to public health, where the most egregious excesses have occurred, where there's some problem in our Constitution where in an emergency, state-appointed pediatricians are given totalitarian authority over our lives. They should also merely be an advisory role to physicians, frankly, and that's it. But what do we do with that? That, to me, is one of the great problems that we learned about during COVID. I had no idea existed and must be solved.
Okay. Again, my book, Selective Persecution, many reasons to buy it, but one of those reasons is the epilogue written by Dr. Robert Malone, who traces the history of public health officers in our nation. Public health is actually diametrically opposed to the bedside doctor who's caring for the patient. That doctor's supposed to be working for you. It has been corrupted. We've seen that. But the public health doctors are not even working for you. They're diametrically opposed. They also come from what's called yellow beret socialism, yellow beret socialists. It's a very interesting backstory, how the public health services all started, how it also led to the CDC and NIH. I think public health officials are the scariest, to paraphrase Ronald Reagan, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help you. It's like, I'm here from public health and I'm here to help you. It's like very scary words. I do not trust our public health sphere at all. One of the best things Trump did was remove us from the WHO. And I hope we make that permanent.
For sure. That's where we opened this year with Michelle Bachmann, who alerted me to that World Health Organization so-called treaty, which was, I had no idea that was coming either. It's just crazy. But yes, I agree with you, but we still have their influence. And it was weird to me. I noticed, as time went along, all these physicians had MPH after their MD. Correct. I'm like, why do you need that? What did that do for you? I'm still questioned why a young physician would elect to get that training, empower them in some way that they want to be a part of that system.
Yeah, it's very funny. When I was young and I was thinking about what to do and I ended up choosing law school, a lot of people encouraged me to get an MPH. There was something in my soul and brain intellect, like I was resistant to it. There was something about it. I didn't even understand it. But the mission of the public health officials is diametrically opposed to the mission of your bedside doctor who's supposed to work for you. Diametrically opposed. They're trying to reduce health problems in the abstract. So they're trying to prevent like global diseases, for example, in the best case scenario. But that means that interfering with every individual sovereignty and decision-making, they're diametrically opposed. It's well written by Dr. Malone in the book, Selective Persecution.
So what do we do about this? Is there laws that need to come in state by state? Do we have federal legislation? It's something to do with the Constitution that they're taking advantage of. I don't see us doing constitutional reform. What do we do?
It's critical that mandates are never permitted under any circumstances. That's right. I was not a huge fan of Dr. Macri, and I know you're interested in the subject, leading the FDA, but one of the things he did say pretty consistently throughout COVID was he was against mandates. That just has to be something that we train children from birth on. Mandates are un-American, unconstitutional. I don't know what kind of freedom you have if you don't have freedom over your body. It seems very basic to me. So me
too. So you mentioned Macari. So now we have these mRNA vaccines approved through Moderna. They allege they're going to do some sort of study that it can't possibly be a placebo-controlled blinded crossover study, but this is their next generation COVID vaccine. I'm assuming it's once again the pathogenic protein that's produced, the spike protein. I can't for the life of me understand why we don't go for nuclear capsid, but what do you think of this? To me, it seems like, let me show my hand, that the bureaucracy again is still in place. It's still doing its thing. And we got to give the new leaders a chance to get the tiger by the tail.
I think running the HHS is an unbelievably difficult job. There's, I think, 13 agencies under the HHS. All of them, I believe, are multi-billion-dollar agencies. It's a very huge task. We all heard Secretary Kennedy say that he didn't want to release any new vaccines unless they were tested against placebo-controlled trials. Of course, that didn't happen here. I think the loophole was that the FDA released them, for younger people with comorbidities and older people. And I think they're using that. But I went back and I listened to Kennedy's words, and I think they're going on a technicality. I don't think they should have been released if you are following Secretary Kennedy's advice, which means the bureaucracy is very large and perhaps, too powerful for any one person to stop. I want to point out a few things, though, specifically. One is I don't understand why people think they really even need a COVID shot. I just want to put that out there, and maybe that's unpopular. I don't care. This is a virus, SARS-2 virus, and there are lots of viruses, and I wouldn't take a new untested medicine for a virus. I simply wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. Now let's talk specifically about this particular one, because I looked it up before the show. So this new shot actually covers, did you know this, Dr. Drew? It covers the XBB 1.5 variant, which is the Omicron variant from 2 years ago. That's what it covers. It's covering the Omicron variant. I say that right now because, again, why would you take something that's new and it's not even so tailored to the variant that's out now? I simply am baffled by this. I've said for a long time.
If I could jump on you with this one, and we're having all kinds of technical problems, so it feels like we're jumping on each other. I apologize to our listeners and viewers for that. But yeah, I've had several people take it and then within a week or a month get COVID. So it's clearly ineffective. And I'm convinced we have two variants running around here in Southern California. One causes severe runny nose. It's just a cold, essentially. And but the other one, I think, is that NB181. It's pretty nasty, and the vaccine does nothing against that. And we have antivirals, and we have monoclonal, and we have all these other things. And the vaccine is directed, as you said, at a variant that's been gone a year ago. So what? And it's designed to create the pathogenic component of the virus. What are we doing, and why? Please, somebody explain this to me. And I kind of brought this up a bunch lately, and I started getting some pushback on social media. And what people kept quoting was data from Alpha and Delta. That is a different illness. That's a totally different illness and a different vaccine. It's uncanny to me that we can't have these conversations meaningfully.
I have not much to add. I just want to say I agree and I validate everything you said. I've checked this all out myself. It works on the old version, the Omicron version, the XBB.1.5. It's not working on the current versions. It's brand new. It's not been placebo tested. You most likely will get over SARS-2 if you do contract SARS-2. I'm not saying it's pleasant. Being sick is never pleasant. But the deathly fear-mongering that you must take a vaccine or I don't know, the sky will fall in. I want to move Americans away from this hyper-reliance on magical medical cures. Live as healthy as possible, be in normal weight, get some sunshine every day, walk outside, try your best to eat well, try your best to sleep, 8 hours a night, and stopping living in fear and on over-reliance on medical miracles that are producing miracles for the company. Moderna, I think, earned $3 billion from their earlier version. Last year, they earned $3.1 billion. So it's working for Moderna. I just don't think it's working for patients.
Well, and if you're very elderly and you're worried about it and you want to talk to your doctor about it, okay. I mean, I've noticed that the elderly tend to get less side effects, it seems like, from this vaccine.
They have a less robust
that's been my
response. It's true. It's true. I agree with you on that. If the elderly, you want to talk about it. Sorry.
That's been my experience. And by the way, I had one severe reaction in one patient. I've had many take the booster. And I made 3 reports to VAERS in a 99-year-old who nearly died. And nope, no response from VAERS. We'll get back to you. We'll let you know.
Yeah. But the bigger point, perhaps you were alluding to it earlier, was are the agencies under Secretary Kennedy following his direction? He clearly said he wants placebo-controlled trials before releasing new shots.
Right. Well, they allege that's what they're going to do. And I thought they had said no new COVID vaccines, but I don't know. But I want to give them a chance to, as you said, it's a huge agency. I want to give them a chance to do their job. Are you amongst the group that's impatient and angry and feel let down?
I have a lot of faith in Secretary Kennedy. I do. I think it's a difficult job. I've said for 5 years now that Big Pharma runs the federal government, not the other way around. It's very, very difficult. I am optimistic he will get some things done. I have my eye on the freedom angle, which is that nothing should be mandated. That's what I keep my eye on. Yeah. It's so easy to put your finger on these things that you can like freedom of speech. Absolutely willing to go to the mat on that. No mandates. You do not have the bioethical standing for a mandate. I'm willing to go to the mat on that. There are things that have come out of this experience that I like you, am an absolutist about. I never thought about these things at any other point in my life. But, what did you put up there, Caleb? The vaccine for adults 65 and older, is this what that spike, yes. mNEXSPIKE is for? Anything with a spike, I don't understand it. I can't imagine. But here we are. I just want to share with everybody that, we do medical town halls. So the next one coming up is June 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern. Go to goldcare.com because this is what we're talking about. Spikeopathy. What medical risks, what diseases, what problems can happen from these spike proteins? That's literally, we'll have Steve Kirsch with us. So if you go to goldcare.com, it's Tuesday evening, June 10th, and just sign up. It's free. And you learn all about the spikes, the spike protein, why you really don't want to put these things in your body. The spike is just, it's, what was the doctor last week I talked to, Dr. Jordan?
Simone, can't remember his name, but he has thousands of patients in study and has been talking a lot about the coagulopathy and the endothelial injuries and the endotheliitis that's caused by the spike protein. I mean, it's well established now that this is what does its thing. And stroke is not an uncommon complication of all this. But my last question to you is, are there remedies we need to be seeking in the courts? Are there things that still need to be done? If they won't legislatively look at some of these things, we need to get to the courts to safeguard against future excesses like this.
Okay, so this is where being a doctor lawyer came very much in handy during the COVID years. I knew from very early on that these shots were not should not be treated under the standard of vaccine law, which is a different standard than medical treatment law. Vaccines, the government has some police power to enforce. Medical treatment, there's absolutely the government has zero ability to interfere in your medical decisions. So this is critical. We fought this for 3 or 4 years. And in the summer of 24, the Ninth Circuit, which is the highest court really other than the Supreme Court, held that these shots were not definitely vaccines. They really should be held to the medical treatment standard, which is the Nancy Cruzan standard, not the Jacobson standard. This is hyper-technical legal language, but it's critical. Right now in America in 2025, we're in a relatively good place when it comes to mandate. The highest court, short of the Supreme Court, has held that these COVID shots are more akin to medical treatment only and therefore cannot be mandated. So at the moment, we're in an okay place.
Well, an okay place still scares me.
Yes.
Because there's been so much excess. I'm so glad you've written the book. It's historically relevant. I'm glad you put your finger on some of the things the excesses that we need to be aware of and learn from this, and maybe think about the remedies that you and Dr. Malone have suggested. Have I left anything out of this story that you wanted to get into here in terms of what you learned writing the book and what you're thinking about and concerned about going forward?
I want to remind people that, if you're a doctor and a lawyer and you've been to the best schools and you've had a sterling reputation, and your government can do a violent FBI SWAT team raid on you and take you out in your neighborhood, perp walk you in handcuffs and shackles, and then throw you into maximum security prison, then we've got some difficulties. So I urge you to learn more about this, not to become hopeless, but to learn more about it and start advocating for more freedom throughout our great land. And you can find the story in Selective Persecution.
Simone, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well,
here we are.
Yeah, let's talk to
Back.
Caleb. What's going on? Is it our internet or
yeah,
what's going on?
It's something. It's the internet on your side because everything's fine over here.
Yeah. What would that
That's
mean?
so weird.
We got to
And
try
then
to
the
solve this. It's
fucked
pretty
up.
wacky. All right. So we're going to get to Robert Suttle here. And Suttle, I believe, is how you pronounce his last name. I want to make sure I get that correct. He has founded the HIV is Not a Crime initiative with the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation. You So what point in that intro did I get cut off from your end, Caleb?
The whole thing, I think. The whole thing.
Okay.
Well,
Robert
what?
Suttle is a long-term survivor. He founded HIV is Not a Crime initiative with the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, advocating against HIV criminalization, which I've never heard of. I want to hear more about that. You can find him on X. Suttle Points, Suttle Points is his X handle. And robertsuttle.com. We'll get to him right after this.
People like
What's so special about Paleo Valley's grass-fed and finished bone broth and superfood bars? Well, everything. All are delicious, high in nutrients, low in calories, and contain nothing artificial. Co-founder Autumn Smith on what goes into every superfood bar.
So we have bone broth protein powder, and then we've added other superfoods, cashew butter, we have spirulina in there, acerola, broccoli powder, kale, blueberries. And so it really is kind of just an infusion of superfoods with every bite.
And then there's the extraordinary bone broth protein made with an ancestral approach that boosts our collagen intake.
Collagen is something that's gone by the wayside in our modern diet because we don't eat nose to tail anymore, but it was something we ate a lot of, and it has so many benefits. So if you have sagging skin, joint pain, gut issues, your decreased bone mineral density, slow to heal your wounds, slow recovery, these are all things that collagen can dramatically improve. If we're not giving our body the building blocks to produce it, we just age more rapidly. It also improves sleep, improves blood sugar control. So it's essentially like the Swiss Army knife of healthy aging.
Like I said, Paleo Valley's bone broth is something special. Make Paleo Valley part of your longevity regimen. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 20% off when you subscribe and 15% off your first order. That is drdrew.com/Paleo Valley. The Wellness Company knows that taking charge of your family's healthcare is a top priority, and that's why they're constantly innovating to deliver the products and services to help you be rationally ready. Be sure to have the medical kit for kids on hand, whether you're a parent or grandparent. It treats 20 childhood conditions, including nausea and vomiting, allergies, asthma, inflammatory illnesses, even bioterror, God forbid. Listen, croup, ear infections, lice, it's all available in the pediatric emergency kit. You can also order the kids kit with an EpiPen should your child be at risk of anaphylaxis. And those EpiPens are carefully sourced and well priced relative to other EpiPens in the market. All 7 kits, each customized for a different purpose, come with a telemedicine consultation and a guidebook. Skip the scramble to an urgent care waiting room full of sick people and expense, or a pharmacy where there's no guarantee they'll have what you need. Go to drdrew.com/TWC for 10% off any medical emergency kit, or the supplements for that matter. That again is drdrew.com/TWC.
Dr. Drew said the best way to quit drinking is by going cold turkey, and he's a doctor, so why would you question doctors?
Dr. Drew called me unfixable.
And summer is coming, but the bug bites and sunburns are already here. That's why we recommend having a supply of active skin repair, hydrogel, and spray around the house. The key ingredients is hypochlorous acid. It's a clinically proven antimicrobial. It's already used in hospitals. It can be used on even little babies. Even the bottle labeled adult could be. You bet it can. In fact, our granddaughter, Eloise, has become our family's new spokesmodel for active skin repair. She hates diapers, but she doesn't get, she gets relief from the skin repair and doesn't get diaper rash because of it. It's a novel formulation that soothes and heals irritated skin, including especially diaper rash. The hydrogel is thicker and great for sort of spot treatments. And it's not petroleum-based. Active skin repair works on blemishes, cuts, burns, rashes. It's one of the ways you and your family can be rationally ready, as we like to say here at TWC. Our partners at Active Skin Repair also make hyaluronic hydrating serum, which